The news of the day is that a fifth Lions player is being investigated by the NFL for violating the league's gambling policy. We do not know who that player is. We can talk more about that in just a second.
I think it's Michael Badgley. I'm only kidding.
You're only kidding. Let's not stick names out there, Tom Masway.
I'm
Okay,
joking,
okay, that's a joke.
They got three kickers.
They got three kickers.
Right.
Meanwhile,
I thought it was funny, man. I thought it was funny. I got your back. I thought it was
meanwhile, Jameson Williams spoke with the team yesterday. Spoke with the media yesterday, I should say.
Yeah.
Here's what he had to say. For the first time since his being suspended for the first 6 games. Here's J-Mo.
It hit me out the blue, and it hit a couple other players around the league and on my team out the blue. I wasn't aware of this situation, but as it happened, like I said, I took it on the chin. I was ready to move forward as things moved on, and I got the consequences. So that's been my whole plan, moving forward from things.
Jameson Williams taking full accountability for what happened. He wasn't aware. He didn't even know what was going on. And I actually really believe that. Here he is talking about his love of the city of Detroit.
Oh yeah, I love Detroit. They love me. Like everything about Detroit I love. It's a real great city. I just look forward to doing real big things for the city, playing ball for the city, taking the city to another level.
Okay, so that's two things from Jameson Williams there. Let me say this, and Braylon, sometimes you just got to figure things out for yourself.
Yeah, I'm salivating comment on this conversation.
Okay. When you're wrong, I think it's important to say you're wrong about something. This gambling stuff is so dumb and shouldn't even be a thing. The NFL ought to be embarrassed about it, and I apologize to Jameson Williams for coming down on him for this stuff. I don't think anybody really fully knows the rules.
Yeah.
I don't think they do a good job of informing the players when to gamble, when they're allowed to do it, what they're allowed to play, all this stuff. We were talking to, who was I talking to? Oh, I was talking to Calvin Johnson. Was it Calvin? Damn it.
That was a light flex, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Light flex. Yeah,
Damn.
I was just talking to Calvin.
I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to somebody involved in professional sports. And these guys don't know anything about gambling. They just don't. When you came here, Braylon, and we're talking, man, you remember that?
Of course.
We're talking
He's like,
about
over. What? I mean, what?
Lions +6. Braylon had legitimately no idea what this stuff was.
I'm still confused over a lot.
Over-unders, minus this, minus that. I really don't think they understand what's going on. And the NFL has done a terrible job of teaching them. So whoever this fifth player is, we don't know who it is. But I apologize to Jameson Williams for coming down on him as hard as I did, because this gambling stuff, they've opened up Pandora's box. They want to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and that's just not how it works.
What I would say is this is a great teachable moment, and the teachable moment is this. When we first started talking about this, Ryan was adamant about the situation. He was upset with Jameson Williams, more so from the missing 6 games, more so what that could do. And I jumped on. I said, look, I was like, they don't know these rules. I said, I guarantee you, I've been in the NFL. They don't necessarily make you sit in rooms, explain things to you. And so I jumped down Ryan and Ermanni, and I owe you apologies because I actually see to a certain extent what you saw. So it's a great moment. But 100%, man, this is that thing. The NFL does not exactly do what they tell you they're going to do. For years with concussion, the people in the audience, they thought that everything was going right. The NFL cared about the players. The NFL was protecting them with the helmets, the best technology. Then the movie Concussion comes out. And then you find out that it's not the case.
I want the truth.
And exactly. And that's why he didn't win the Oscar, because that election was horrible. But then you find out they're not doing it. Then you find out NFL players are not being taken care of. Same thing with this. I guarantee you they're not telling these guys exactly what they expect from them as it relates to betting on games, as it relates to when you can do it, where you can do it, and etc. But going back to Jameson Williams, this is a great moment, Ryan. All Detroiters really wanted from Jameson Williams when the situation first came out. They just wanted him to show some level of sorriness. They wanted him to be sorry that he got caught. Or they wanted him to be sorry. They wanted to see that, hey, you know what? My apologies. I own this. Now I'm going to be serious. When you see him in Vegas and he's making bets and you saw him like he didn't care, it pissed a lot of Detroiters off, as it should. because it wasn't the right time. It was a couple days later. Now you see Jameson Williams in a different light, a kid that loves Detroit. Much like the day after the draft when everybody said, he's not excited to be here. Look at his response during the draft. What did he say the next day? He was excited as hell. He talked to us. He was over the moon excited, talking about playing for the Detroit Lions. This is a guy that somebody's been in his ear. I will say that. Whether it's Calvin Johnson or whether it's somebody else, somebody has been in his ear. Somebody has gotten him to understand, and now he's being able to showcase, I do love Detroit. It's going to be great here. We're going to figure it out. I'm sorry, but let me tell you the truth. We really don't know what the heck is going on with this gambling thing. He's trying to give us a little insight to what's going on I guarantee you, it's not the only locker room.
And if it's not an NFL problem, it's certainly a Detroit Lions problem.
True.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions did not do what they were supposed to do with this gambling stuff. You're talking 5 players and a number of other personnel. We still don't know who those personnel
They're not here
are.
anymore.
They are not here anymore. I don't even know who they are, to be honest with you. Those names were never revealed. We just heard Lions personnel involved. We don't know who. We don't know how many.
Yeah.
This is a Lions problem and an NFL problem. If the Detroit Lions did not do enough to educate the Lions players, the young Lions players, these aren't 10-year veterans who are making these mistakes. This is a 22-year-old kid. All he knows now is gambling, right? Gambling is legalized in his adult life.
True.
Since the time he's 17, 18 years old. Gambling is legal. He doesn't know who Pete Rose is. He doesn't you know what
Charlie
I mean?
Hustle.
He hasn't gone down that road. He doesn't know that in every Major League Baseball, there's no gambling. He doesn't think gambling's bad. He's not
100%.
taught that. It's not his age group. We did a story yesterday from the USA Today on the amount of people who are actually betting, and it's $30, $35. That's the average dollar that's being bet now. It's millions and millions of people. I don't think the Detroit Lions, certainly the Detroit Lions, and perhaps the NFL did not do enough to teach these guys what to do and what not to do.
And it's not just them. It's not. And the Detroit Lions, obviously, there's a disconnect there in Allen Park. Somewhere along the way, they got to figure that thing out because we can't keep saying, well, they didn't know. Well, they didn't know. Who the hell's job is it to be in charge to educate these individuals? But it is an NFL problem. It's not just the Detroit Lions problem because wide receivers coach Miles Austin, who used to play wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, he was a wide receivers coach for the Jets last year. He got suspended or fired from the Jets as a wide receivers coach because he was gambling. And if, as you know, no coaches, no personnel can gamble at all. Players can gamble on different sports when they're not at the facility, when they're not at places involved with the NFL or places involved with the Detroit Lions. I guess that would be the NFL. But he got fired, and he's a coach, and he wasn't betting on the Jets. He got fired. So apparently, clearly, there's a disconnect somewhere. They aren't letting the players know. They aren't letting the personnel know just exactly what they expect, just exactly what is okay and what is. They better figure this thing out because you don't want to keep having this problem, and we don't want to be sitting here in 2024, 2025 with the same thing because it won't be acceptable then.
Here's the problem, guys. The NFL's been against gambling since way back when.
I couldn't tell.
Go to the 60s when they made Joe Namath sell his he had a club in New York called Bachelor's 2. But you know what? A bunch of mob guys hung out there. So Pete Rozelle said, I'm sorry. You got to let this place go. And Joe's like, well, I'm going to retire. I remember he cried. They got it all worked out. He wound up selling his interest in that. And then months later, a guy here with the Detroit Lions, a guy that's a Hall of Famer, Alex Karras, and Paul Hornung, the golden boy at Green Bay, both of them suspended for gambling. Now, gambling is on our phone. Come on. The 6-game suspension, the year suspension to Calvin Ridley, the year suspension to these other Lion players, and there's more coming down the road.
Essentially ending their career, by the way.
Basically. The Lions signed that special team guy, and I can't remember his name, but he's done. Yeah. They cut him. It's a double-edged sword, man. The NFL's got it. They got to fix it. They got to fix it. And like you said, Rye, the Lions have done, obviously, they've dropped the ball with this staff. And these players, they've dropped the ball because either they're not listening, like my kids don't listen to me, either they're not listening or they are ignorant of the facts. That's it.
Yeah, it's definitely not them listening because you're talking about individuals that are losing upwards of $300,000, $1 million. I mean, look what Calvin Ridley lost.
Yeah.
Making a $1,000 bet, $1,600 bet. Look at how much money he lost. No one's trying to lose that type of money. So it's clearly a disconnect. Quick pivot, though. I remember what Paul Hornung did, though, and why I don't like him. I'll tell you off air.
Hey,
Go ahead.
by the way,
Paul
just saying.
Hornung. I hate Paul
What was I just going to say?
Hate Notre Dame, too.
I just lost my train of thought.
Paul Hornung.
I pulled the Costanza. I lost my train of thought. It'll
they,
come back to
They
me.
don't know or they're ignorant to the fact. That's the last 2 words you said.
It'll come back to me. Yep, exactly. I pulled a George.
Yeah, I just think 44-year-old Ryan Ermanni is a lot different than 22-year-old Ryan Ermanni.
42-year-old Ryan Ermanni.
Yeah, no.
You get better every year.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying. I don't. Go ahead, Maz.
I remember now.
Okay, go ahead before you forget.
Who did Jameson Williams work out with this past year?
Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Yeah. The Alabama guys, though.
I'm just saying.
The Alabama guys.
I'm just saying. Those are the 2 guys that are suspended.
Yeah, I mean, well, technically
Well,
not
there's
because
more
the
than that.
Lions
More
have
than those
more,
two.
I'm just
the
telling
Washington
you.
Commanders have more. Man, I understand
Because
that.
they did speak and say his routes are so much better now than they were last year because Calvin Ridley supposedly is one of the best route runners
He is.
in the NFL.
So is
But
Julio Jones and all those
Yeah,
But it's
Alabama
Alabama,
guys.
though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they connect through Alabama. Like, when you go to an institution like that, like, I used to work out, when I played in the NFL, I never worked out at University of Michigan. I love my school. I'm a diehard. I'll fight you. You talk about University of Michigan. I never worked out at Michigan. I worked out with all the guys from Miami because those guys were cold. Because those guys that bred me. You talking about that 2003 draft. So when you go to a school like that, those guys work out together because they're the best. Why do I want to work out people that aren't the best? So shout out to Alabama and what they do off the field.
Route-wise. Look, I know there might not be as many forgiving people in the chat. Everybody does the right thing every now. Everybody does the right
They're
thing,
all
and
perfect.
nobody does the wrong thing,
No.
especially
Glass house guys.
right. But I'm just telling you, is a 21, 22-year-old kid who might have been in some rookie class seminar. Who's paying attention? That's like,
You know what they're on? They're on their phones.
yeah, who's paying attention to any work seminar? No offense. I mean, who's paying attention to these things that you got to do just because you got to do them? You're not paying attention. You don't understand the seriousness. And maybe I am blaming ignorance a little bit and going too far overboard and not giving him the personal accountability. Let's see what he does from here on out. How about this? If the NFL said, you know what, we got to do something. You get a game, slap on the wrist.
Yep.
Second time you do it, season.
Yeah, I like that.
But
not 6 games in a year.
Not, come
the
on,
first
man.
time.
And I wish he would have shared some details. Yes, if he would have said, I put $50 on the Celtics minus the 6.
Right. They tried to ask him, and he's like, I don't remember. I don't remember.
I just think it's so ridiculous. Shame on the NFL for allowing sports books to go into football stadiums and letting stadiums be named after casinos and doing all kinds of business with this. A guy puts a couple $100 on a basketball game, and you say no 6 games.
Where was this Ryan Ermanni in March? Because this Ryan Ermanni in March, like, you went overboard on Jameson Williams, and everybody else out there did too. Would not
Not
let.
me.
Well, not you. You did not. You've been pissed since Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
You were pissed at the NFL for Calvin Ridley, so
You
I
bet.
gave that. But everybody in the chat, everybody around the city of Detroit, I can't believe he did this. Oh my God! You know what? Let's just trade him. Let's just get rid of him. Ryan, you never went that far, so I'm not putting you in that category. But everybody's saying that now. All of a sudden, it's like, you know what? It's on.
It's very simple. You want to know why?
I have been saying this from jump. I said, look, at 21, there was a lot of things I wish I could take back at 21. I didn't know what I didn't know. I made a lot of mistakes at 21. But one thing is for certain, at 22, when I got in the NFL, a lot of mistakes I made. NFL didn't necessarily tell us exactly what to do, but they told the media, the public, and all the fans at home, this is what we do to our players. This is what we provide for our players. And everybody believed that. Jameson Williams has been the same age for the last 3 months, last time I checked. But now all of a sudden it's like, I said that back then.
But look, the more information you have about something,
But
I believe.
what's changed?
The more information, I don't think the NFL or the Detroit Lions.
I told you that then.
I know, but I wasn't sure of that because there was other information that said these guys go through X, Y, and Z, and it is at the forefront. But I don't believe it is. I think the more information that came out is these guys really aren't prepared for this. Yeah. They really don't know. And again, the more information you have about a subject, the better informed your opinion can be about it. And if you want to beat your feet in the sand and say I'm not moving off my stance on this, I think is dumb. Number one.
No, it is. It's true.
And number two, this is not a crime. This is not drugs. This is not guns. Yeah. This is not domestic violence. This is nothing you go to jail for. This is something where
legal betting.
This is legal, number one, but this is something that's advertised as you're a winner. What other addiction or problem advertises you winning? If you're an alcoholic, do they say, "Oh, you're a winner. Let's go win"? Or drug addict, or gun violence, or domestic violence? Do they call you a winner? No. Gambling, they do. Yeah. This guy doesn't know. I'm fully convinced he didn't even know what he was doing. I'm fully convinced of that. He might see the commercial. He might talk to his buddies. "Oh, I'm putting $20 on the Tigers tonight." Yeah, you're right. I really believe that. I could be wrong, and I might change my mind again. But right now,
but you know what? You have the ability.
I have the ability to do that.